This is the cabbage equivalent of a beautiful steak. It is caramelized and crispy on the outside. It is melt in your mouth on the inside. And it has this beautiful, bright garlic lemon dressing that is just going to transport you from the dark days of winter into the beautiful, bright sunshine that you know is coming soon. It is amazing. It is 5 minutes of effort. It is one pan. This is my perfect cabbage.
Let's spend time with Marco, but the food is the star, so it's probably worth sharing.
Hello, I'm Marco, and welcome to my home kitchen. I gave myself a challenge I'm calling Ugly Vegetable Winter to transform the local produce I can get into delicious meals that I crave. Today, I want to show you how to make my perfect cabbage. This recipe cuts the cabbage in a slightly unconventional way. So first, turn the cabbage on its side, and you want to cut off this dry area on the side of the cabbage. If any of the leaves go too, that's fine, they're compost now. Set the cabbage on the part that you just cut and cut it in half. The easiest way to do this is to stab the cabbage right in the middle, and then use gravity to pull your knife down. Turn the cabbage around, stab it again, and cut down. Then open the two sides of your cabbage. In a lot of cabbage recipes, you cut the core out. In this case, you're going to keep it because it's going to keep all of the leaves attached in the wedges, which is the final serving of this dish. So place your cabbage cut side down, cut the cabbage in half again. You want your final cabbage wedges to be about 2 inches across. So for this cabbage, I'm going to cut these in half again. But if you have a larger cabbage, you might want to cut them into 3 pieces. And you can see in this piece that the cabbage core is connecting all of the leaves. It is like the spiritual community of all of the people with cabbage plates and cabbage mugs, which goes with my shirt. Finish cutting all of your cabbage pieces, and that's breaking down the cabbage. Now you can do this next step on a baking sheet or in a large cast iron pan. I've done both. On your baking sheet, pour about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. This is going to sound weird, but season your baking sheet with salt and pepper. You can think about this like how you season a steak. Grab a piece of cabbage, place it on the pan, give it a little jiggle to move the olive oil around, and do that until all your cabbage is on the baking sheet. You want to make sure there's space between each of the pieces of cabbage so they get some nice, neat browning in the oven. Grab some more olive oil and drizzle a little bit on top of each piece of cabbage. Cabbage can absorb a lot of olive oil, so be generous. I don't actually measure how much, I just go by feel, but there is an actual measured amount somewhere in a recipe for you to read. You might be looking at this and saying, wow, that's a lot of olive oil, and it is. Except when you consider cooking meat, the meat already comes with a ton of fat, and fat is flavor. You need to help vegetables along, especially if they're going to be the core of the meal. To make a vegetable dish be satisfying and keep you full, you do need to add fat to it. Add some more salt and pepper. You might have noticed I haven't told you to preheat your oven. Ideally, you're going to put this into a cold, turned off oven, and as it slowly heats up, that's going to gently cook the cabbage all the way through, and once it reaches the high temperature, it's going to get really crisp and really charred on the top surface, and really caramelized and brown on the side facing the pan. So this goes into a cold oven, which you're then going to turn on and set to 425 Fahrenheit. GREMOLATA is a traditional Italian condiment made of parsley, lemon, and garlic. It is a pop of brightness like that one day in January where the sun decides to come out and grace you with its warmth. It is so good, and you're going to want to put it on everything. To get started, finely chop the parsley. The way I like to do this is in what I call the grid method. First, give everything a rough chop. Use a bench scraper or your hands to toss everything around. Now cut in the shape of a grid. So I'm going to go from side to side and then from top to bottom. Then use your bench scraper to mix the herbs all up again. This is a really nice method because it doesn't make a huge mess, it's really controlled, and you have a good sense of where you are in the process. And this is the texture you're looking for. You want something pretty fine so it's not going to get stuck in your teeth. Now transfer it to a bowl. Now you want to grate 1 clove of garlic. If you don't have a microplane, you can mince the garlic. Then the zest of a lemon. And the juice of a lemon. Lemon juice goes in. Add salt and pepper to taste. The olive oil cooked on the cabbage is going to taste very different than fresh olive oil. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of a good olive oil in here as well, which isn't traditional, but I like the way it tastes. And this is my cabbage. You can change your cabbage. And stir all this together. You want to be diligent about breaking up the garlic and making sure there's no big clumps of it. You're looking for a flavor that's going to transport you to somewhere really joyous and bright and punchy. It should be very lemony, very garlicky, and very intense. That's the GREMOLATA. This is what you want it to look like when it comes out of the oven. You can hear it's still really sizzling and crisping up on the baking sheet, which I should probably let it stop doing so you can hear me. And if you flip it over, you'll see that it is super crispy, deeply caramelized, and that's going to be the best tasting part. You'll know the cabbage is done when you can take a fork and stick it into the thickest part of the cabbage core, and it'll pierce through really gently, really easily. To serve this, I like to transfer it to a really wide serving bowl or a serving platter. You can hear how crispy it is, and I cannot tell you how beautiful and wonderful the smell of this cabbage is. Once you're happy with the layout of your cabbage, you can top it with the GREMOLATA. You'll want to stir the GREMOLATA again to distribute the lemon juice and make sure you get a little bit everywhere. I like to put 1 drop on each piece of cabbage and then spread it out with the spoon. That's going to make sure you have a nice, even distribution. Since the cabbage is still so warm, it's slightly cooking the garlic, and it smells so good. That's how easy this is. This dish is best when served hot, but it's also really good at room temperature. This is a beautiful vegetable-forward centerpiece that you can use as a side dish or turn into a meal. If you want to turn this into a meal, I would add toasted walnuts, maybe some crumbled feta cheese, and as a side dish, it would be perfect with any kind of roasted meat. Cold pan chicken would be what I would serve it with. To serve the cabbage, I recommend one of the wedges being a unit of food. Tongs are a really great way to serve this. Grab one of the wedges, drop it on a plate, and enjoy it. So how does the cabbage taste? Perfect bite, has some of the GREMOLATA, the crispy edge, and the tender middle. This is so good. It is such a satisfying dish. The crispy edges have this almost meat-like quality from the deep umami flavor and all of that olive oil that's giving it that really fatty mouthfeel. The middle is so soft and tender, the cabbage just melts in your mouth. And then the GREMOLATA is just like punching with new flavors everywhere. It's like a flavor journey. I hope you follow along with Ugly Vegetable Winter at home. Try this recipe. There's more recipes on my website. The kohlrabi soup, the roasted radish, the celery root puree are all so good. If you enjoyed this video, please like, please subscribe. And if you would like to support the work that I'm doing, consider becoming a paid subscriber on Substack. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
It's probably worth sharing.
Everybody loves hot tomato summer. You don't need to put in the work to make it tomato delicious. You cut it in half, you put it on bread, it is perfect. You cannot slice cabbage in half and put it on bread and expect it to taste good. The ugly winter vegetables need to turn into beautiful swans.